Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. The video I'm gonna do today is on a topic that is probably one of my favorite topics, like something that I think is like one of the most important things to really understand in the world, and that is all about kind of accepting and loving people who do bad things, people who wrong you. How do you respond to that? So I think this is a really important topic, and I think it's something that is probably relevant to everyone because we all have people in our lives. Some of them treat us well, some of them don't, and it's like, how do we deal with the people who don't treat us well? Like, what should our response be? I don't know if there's like one correct answer, just like one blanket statement that applies to like everything, every situation. But I will say that one statement that resonates with me a lot that I do think applies to pretty much everything is from A Course in Miracles. I should make a whole nother video about this because there's a lot there, but let's just say it's a book with a lot of deep spiritual wisdom in it, and a lot of it just comes down to love and forgiveness. So it's a book that I like a lot, and one quote that is in that book that I want to share in response to like everything I'm talking about in this question is, I'll put it up here. When a brother behaves insanely, you can heal him only by perceiving the sanity in him. Let that sink in for a second because it's saying a lot right there. But basically what this is saying is that when someone is behaving insanely, when someone is doing wrong, the way that you can deal with that is by perceiving the sanity in him. So I was gonna try to think of like a hypothetical example, but I think instead I'm just gonna share an example, like a story from my own life where this quote very much applied and was something that I learned to practice in that situation that was really difficult. So I had a long-term relationship end in a very bad way. My partner broke my trust, and obviously my first reaction was like anger, and I was very upset. I was very sad. There were a lot of intense emotions in the beginning, but this feeling that was lingering for like months after it happened was just like, not just resentment, but like this need to have justice for it. Like, I just wanted everyone to know what happened. Like, the thing that annoyed me the most was thinking about that person just living their life and all of the people in their life having no idea of what they did. And I just felt myself like wishing that everyone knew. And I don't know, I just felt like really angry about it all. But then I was on YouTube, and I was actually watching like YouTube videos of like how to deal with it, like how to feel better after something like that happens. And I came across this Eckhart Tolle video where he was like, instead of using the phrase, I was betrayed or they betrayed me, instead you should flip it and say, they were acting in accordance with their state of consciousness at the time. So like they were acting that way because they were just acting in alignment with their level of consciousness at the time. And that was like a real aha moment for me because it kind of like removed me from the situation. It was like, I don't need to be a part of this. Like, yes, maybe I can say like I was involved in this relationship and they technically did this to me, but they didn't. They just took this action that was in alignment with their level of consciousness at the time. And when I rephrased it that way, it made me feel a lot better. It really brought me peace because I felt bad for them. Like, once I thought about it that way, I was like, this person must be hurting in some way because they were able to then hurt someone else. And you've probably heard the phrase like, hurt people hurt people. And I think that's so true, and I think it's really important to keep in mind. It doesn't mean that what they did was okay. It doesn't mean you're brushing it off and saying they're allowed to keep doing it, they're just hurt. But it really does reframe things and it removes you from the situation, and it just gives you a different perspective of like, they are hurting other people because they themselves, deep down, are hurting. And so I eventually learned to just kind of like see what they did as that. It meant that they were hurting and that was their level of consciousness at the time. And it actually had nothing to do with me. And I think that's the trick for so many relationships and people in general who hurt others and people who commit wrongdoings, people who do really bad things in the world, it all is just a result of how they feel about themselves, how they feel deep down. And like what A Course in Miracles is saying, going beyond that, is that the way to actually heal them is to perceive the sanity in them. And that's like a very trippy thing to think about, because you basically need to see them as God. Because at the end of the day, that's what we all are. Like, nothing is separating us besides our egos. So when you can look beyond that and realize that that was just like their ego committing that wrongdoing, you know that deep down, if we're all connected, which I believe, they are also God. We are all God. We're all a part of God. And you might have heard this Ram Dass quote where he said, treat everyone that you meet as if they're God in drag. And I like to think of that too, because it's like, if you just meet a stranger, or if you see someone on the street and you just like disregard them, or if somebody does something bad, whoever it is, you should see everyone as God, because ultimately that's what we all are. If that's what you believe, that's what I believe. It's really helpful for me to think about it that way, that like everyone I come across is just God in drag. It's really helpful because it also means that everyone is here to teach me something. That's kind of the way I look at it. And when I say that they were there to teach me something, I kind of mean that on like a deep level. I don't mean like to give an example, I think I mentioned in a previous video that I was a street canvasser in Philly like years ago for like a summer job. And people would say mean things like on the street. I remember one guy yelled across like, get a real job. And like people would do stuff like that all the time. And when I say that like that person is God, which I do believe, and when I say that they're there, like my perception is that they're there to teach me something, I don't mean that like, oh, they were there to teach me that I probably should get a real job, or I don't know, there's other examples like that. But what I ultimately mean is like, they're there to teach me that ideally in like this spiritual evolution journey, I should be able to get to the point where that no longer affects me, because I can see that that is ultimately, that's just their level of consciousness. That's just them hurting. That's just them. That's just like them acting out of their ego. It's not ultimately who they are. It's not ultimately God. It's just, that's just this person flipping out for a reason that is because of them, and it has nothing to do with me actually. So I could think about that and think about like, why did I have an emotional reaction when that person yelled that to me? And when you can experience things like this over and over again and start to learn how to not have that like emotional response to it by learning things like these teachings, where you think about the fact that people are just hurting, which is why they hurt other people. People feel bad about themselves, which is why they treat other people badly. That, at the end of the day, is where a lot of spiritual progress happens, because one of my friends says relationships are like spiritual Red Bull, meaning like your relationships are where you'll have the most like spiritual growth happen, because that's when things really get tested. Like, you can do all the reading in the world that you want on like personal growth, spirituality, self-help, listen to all the podcasts, read all the books, do all the meditation and yoga in the world. But the true test is like, how are your relationships? And if you find that you're just constantly angry at everyone around you, that's just like a good reminder to like think about what that actually means. And something else I want to come back to quickly just about the Course in Miracles quote is that the answer to how to actually respond when people do bad things is to perceive the sanity in those people. So the quote said, when a brother behaves insanely, you can heal him only by perceiving the sanity in him. And the reason for that is that when you see other people as God and you treat them that way, they will then see themselves as God through you. Because think about it, if someone acts out all the time and is super mean to everyone around them, they're just used to people responding to them with anger and fear and hatred. But if you can be the one person to respond to them with love and actually just say thank you, or just send them love, or whatever it looks like, they will then, whether consciously or not, they will see that you see that in them. They'll see that you see the good in them, you see the love in them, you see the God in them, and then that will affect them consciously, and that is ultimately going to help them heal. So that's actually what the most important thing is here, is to see God in everybody, no matter how terrible they are. And that is ultimately how you heal people. So something that I've started doing is like, if I have like a bad interaction with a stranger or something, or if someone just says something mean to me, or whatever it is, if I have some kind of like emotional reaction to somebody doing something to me or whatever, I just like quietly send them love. I don't like say it out loud. If I have an in-person interaction, maybe I'll say something nice to them, but like I instantly feel peace in that moment. Like it's not just healing for the other person, but it's healing for yourself as well, because then you're not letting them affect your emotions, which is like the most powerful thing you can do. Think about how powerful that is. Like people can do whatever they want. They can say whatever they want to you. They can treat you as bad as they want. But the one thing nobody in the world can do is control how you respond to something or feel about something. And it'll also have a really great ripple effect in the world, because if you can just respond to someone with love, no matter how terrible they're being to you, that'll give you peace instantly, like I said, and then you'll go about your day feeling better. Like you won't have that heavy weight or negative emotions dragging you down. So then when you're showing up for other people, you'll be in a better headspace to then treat them kindly and lovingly. So yeah, I'm just sharing this with all of you because for me, it's been really helpful to have that perspective that like anyone I come in contact with is just God. And when people are hurting others, it's because they are ultimately hurting themselves. And the best thing you can do in response to someone who's being a bad person is to just perceive God in them, send them love, and perceive the sanity in them, which is what the quote says. So thanks so much for watching. I hope that this resonated with you. If it did, or if it didn't, let me know in the comments below. As always, go ahead and subscribe if you want to see more of these types of videos. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.